Justin.
And I'm Caleb.
And we are back again making another podcast like we have done every single week for the past, 45 weeks, which is crazy.
That is pretty crazy.
First thing that we want to do is we want to say shout out to Jackson Deal on YouTube for dropping a review on the podcast. We appreciate it. It's a nice little 5-star review. Thank you.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
He says, very entertaining and relatable podcast. Would love to see some longer episodes because it would be better for his drive to school. Overall, great work on the show. Keep up the hard work. Appreciate it. Also, I butchered the reading of that, but it's the same idea.
All right.
So,
longer show.
You
don't hear that often.
No, but it's a decent idea.
That is a good idea.
We haven't done a very long show in a while.
Yeah.
This is not going to be one, most likely. Longer
Probably
than normal.
not.
But we will kind of go from here and see what's going on. We were talking about, what do you have the title as? I have the title in my notes as an honest reflection on social media.
Yeah, we'll go with that one.
Okay, mine's much better.
Well, I just didn't even.
Don't even have a title.
Yeah, my note.
Okay, don't have titles.
Yeah,
Caleb's not a fan of titles, I suppose. Fair enough. This is gonna be like I guess pros and cons kind of vibe, more conversational, seeing what we think about social media. Caleb and I have obviously grown up with social media and use it a lot in our spare time, mostly because our spare time consists of making this podcast, which kind of requires social media. If you haven't figured that out,
it does.
As a fan of the podcast. So the point is, Caleb and I sort of know what we're talking about. At least we hope. So we're going to talk about the negatives of social media, the positives of social media, and then we're going to hit you with some kind of closing thoughts, I suppose, is what they should actually be called in comparison to what we have on the notes. So I'll let you take it away. I've been just rambling, so here we go.
All right. So do we want to go good stuff first or bad stuff first?
What do you think about going ping pong back and forth?
Ping pong, ding dong.
Boom.
I like it.
Boom.
All right.
But let's start with, I think we start with a positive.
Okay. We'll start it off with a positive on my end. The very first one that I have written down is social media promotes communication. I think that being able to communicate with anybody instantaneously anywhere in the whole world is pretty cool, because like this is kind of those things where you don't need somebody's phone number to like shoot them a message or something, and that's pretty cool. Because now you can communicate with anybody pretty much anywhere in the whole world, literally anywhere in the whole world, and you don't have to worry about, this person's like super famous, but I don't have their phone number, so I can't tell them what I think. You can just tell them what you think. It's pretty cool.
No matter what, even if they don't know who you are.
Yeah,
even if they won't respond.
And even on a totally different spectrum than like communicating with somebody famous who you don't have their phone number. If you just want to like send somebody a video or something, and you don't want to text it to them,
you can do it.
Send it through social media.
Boom.
If somebody's sitting right beside of you and you don't want to say something out loud and you don't want to pull up text messages because you're already on Instagram, then just like
shoot them a text.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the communication is endless.
For sure. And I think my positive that kind of goes along with that is you're always connected, no matter what, to everybody around you at all times.
Yeah, that's way better.
Yeah. Well, it's similar. I think it's more so whatever I was talking about being always connected is that no matter what, you can always look at social media and know what's going on in like the world.
Yeah.
Which I think is a pretty good thing. It definitely has changed the way that people interact with news, especially people that are our age. Because I've like never watched the news.
Yeah.
Like I use my phone for the news.
Mm-hmm.
However way that comes, into your eyes, I guess, but definitely not the news.
Yeah.
I just look at what's happening on social media. So always being connected obviously has its negatives too. But I think it's mostly a positive. Always there with somebody else, kind of.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
never lonely.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Totally agree with you. All right. So now we're going with the negative. All right. So my first negative, and it's kind of like one that I wasn't sure about putting, but I felt that like at the end of the day I should add it in here, and that's cyberbullying. I think that that's a pretty big issue. Sometimes
I feel like it's less so now.
Yeah, I don't really hear about it much anymore, but I think it's just because they like teach it to you in like your younger years of school, and so maybe that's why you hear about it more. But it's still an issue, and it's not cool. So be aware of that, and don't get too sad.
And just be nice. You know?
Yeah.
It's pretty much that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Haven't heard that in a long time. Cyberbullying?
Mm-hmm.
Forgot about it even completely.
Yeah.
Been a while.
But I mean, like,
it happens.
You know,
though.
like we deal with it too. You know,
I guess.
Like people saying mean comments on our stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same vibe.
I guess so. I didn't even think about that in the same way though. That's for another time.
Yeah, that's a different podcast.
My first negative is over comparison. So I think that what happens with social media, because you have so much access to every other human on Earth, basically, it's human nature to compare yourself to what you see. That's been happening forever, pretty much. So now that you have access to everybody on Earth, basically, to look at, you can over compare yourself, and I think that has sparked a lot of like insecurity and depression and a lot of the like negative mental health, I think, elements of what social media has caused. A lot of that I think has come from over comparison, and it's just because I don't know, you just can't really avoid it, you know, because I mean, think about like in the 1950s, which wasn't like that long ago in the grand scheme of things, right? Like you knew your family and then like your school, and then that was like kind of it, unless you moved away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas now, you know everybody, kind of everywhere. You know what I mean?
Literally.
Mm-hmm. So just kind of no matter what, there's no avoiding it. You're gonna, over compare, and that leads down a whole rabbit hole of other negative things that can happen to your life. So try to avoid that. It's hard, very hard, but something to keep in mind that it is a negative of social media.
The next pro or positive, I guess you could say, is it brings ambition to people our age, or like even younger than us, dude. Kids starting on TikTok at like 5 years old, you know, and they're doing it, you know, and so there's like so many opportunities in the world of social media for like anyone to get involved, and I think that with that, and whenever you have that mindset, like no matter what your age is, it just brings like a different type of ambition to the table, because it just makes you feel as if nothing is impossible, you know. You have this endless connection, you know, and you can put pretty much anything out there that you want to put out there, and so you feel like, why would I not put it out there, you know, because I had the video on my phone, you know, all I have to do is like clip it together and then post it, you know, and so whenever you think about things like that, it just like is a whole different level of ambition.
For sure. And then I have one that perfectly goes into that, which is opportunities are opened.
Yeah.
I mean, Caleb and I are literally examples of that. Like we're talking into microphones that you're watching us right now, or I guess listening to us through like social media platforms, if you want to think of YouTube and podcasting platforms as that, which I tend to. But the point is that social media can be a career, and that has been proven because YouTube has been around since 2008, and it's 2023. It's 15 years, and people have been doing it kind of ever since, you know? And it's probably for people that are our age and definitely younger, whatever generation is below us, like online creator will be like one of the top jobs that people will want to be. You know what I mean? You know how you do like your preschool graduation and you tell your preschool teacher what you want to be when you grow up and they read it out at graduation?
Yeah, we wanted to be astronauts
and firefighters. Yeah, or like dinosaurs. And they're going to say like Mr. Beast.
Yeah, I know.
That's crazy to think about.
It is.
I've never actually thought about it like that until just now. But like that whole kind of thing that your parents have told you or teachers have told you, which is like try and find something to do in your life, like as a career that you like love to do and you'll never work. That's really true with something like being a creator, because you can do whatever you want to do. You can make content about anything, and there is an audience, however big or small. I think that my joke whenever we did like early kind of topics similar to this was like roller skating or something like that. Like people just go to town roller skating. But if you're really good at roller skating and you can make a decent video, you can get, you know, followers and money and career opportunities and meet some cool people. And I mean, you and I have done that on a smaller scale. Like we've made some cool content and we've met some cool people along the way. And, you know, it's real. Opportunities get opened.
It is. It's so real.
Yeah.
It's so real. And I think that that's one thing that people in the older generations kind of like don't see.
No, definitely not. They kind of like,
Yeah, I think that they definitely kind of hate on the whole social media as a job type thing, which I I shouldn't say that I don't get, because like I do kind of understand like what they feel,
of course.
but at the end of the day, it's like if somebody can create something digitally and post it and then get 1 million people to see it and then they make more money than you, then you kind of have to be like, all right, let's rethink things here.
Yeah.
You know, whenever people become so successful, like as successful as Mr. Beast or like as successful as like Casey Neistat, you know, people just have to like open their eyes and be like, all right, this is like totally
For
a real
sure.
thing now.
You just can't deny the possibilities of things, you know?
Yeah.
Because anything can be a job now, you know? Which is like a crazy thing to say, but it's really true.
Yeah, I
you
know.
It just depends on it. Like, and don't get me wrong, right? Let's say you want to be roller skate guy on social media, right? That's going to be hard. There's nothing that's easy about that.
Yeah.
But you get to roller skate for your job. Like, there's people who play video games professionally.
I know.
Right? Like, that was hard for them. You know? Just because they're not like doing the traditional whatever job, you know, that doesn't. Like, you can't just discredit somebody because they're sick at video games. You know what I mean? It's hard. It's hard to do everything, you know?
Yep.
So,
my next, wait, is it your turn?
no, it's negatives.
Oh, yeah.
We just had the same thing, basically.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so my next negative is misinformation, also known as fake news. It's totally real, and you have to watch out for these things, because the videos that you see of like a unicorn, it's not real. It's fake. It's edited, and it's really hard. I shouldn't say really hard, but
sometimes it is, man. Some people are sick.
Yeah, I know. Like especially today with people who have been editing videos for so long and they're like so good at editing videos, it's really hard to tell if something that they create is real or fake, because it's just like the people who edit the Avengers movies.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, if you were from like a different universe,
if you were from 1980,
yeah, you'd be like, oh my goodness, this is real, and it's crazy. But you just have to be aware, you know, do your research. If you see a video and you're like on the verge of saying, is this real or fake, just do some research.
Yeah.
Type in Google, are unicorns real? You know,
right.
It'll probably tell you that they're not, you know. So,
or maybe it'll bring up the video of the unicorn that you just watched.
You know, and then maybe you're just down the rabbit hole, and then maybe unicorns aren't real. So,
who knows?
Yeah, but just be aware of the fake news. One thing that I see all the time is like headlines, you know, news headlines saying something about whatever, and then you click on it and it's like, oh, this was just a joke,
right?
You know, and so, or something that happens all the time is on TikTok. I'll get like so interested in it in TikTok and watch all the way through it, and the next thing you know, at the very end, they're like, oh, yeah, this was fake the whole time. Gotcha.
Nice. Yeah.
You know, and so just be aware that people make fake things, and not everyone tells the truth online, and so don't believe everything that you hear on the internet. Basically.
And I think a really good example of that too, in a more practical sense, is like we said, the unicorn thing. It would be hard to make a unicorn look real in editing, but something that's not hard to do in editing is to cut people's conversations up and put it together in a way that isn't what they said in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've done that with podcast clips. Not that we cut people out of context, but the point is that it's pretty easy. Anybody could really do that. So, keep that in mind, because if you see, you know, people say things online, for example, like if, you know, podcasts are good examples. Like if you cut people out of context and you don't let people have like the whole conversation, then there's fake news that's then spread or whatever. So basically anything that you say online can be cut up and it can make you seem like you're the worst person ever. So,
yeah.
And take that with a grain of salt, which basically it all goes back to the same thing, which is do your research. Fixes most problems, as it turns out.
Mm-hmm.
My next negative of social media here is you kind of become a face in the crowd, if you will. We talked about this in my comm class, actually, which is like there's this scale, which is like as communication technology gets better and better and better, also you become less and less human. make sense.
Yeah.
And at the top of that scale is whatever, who knows, down the line. But basically what that means is you lose a lot of your individuality by communicating on social media. We've all had those times, and I think this is kind of like a base level kind of example, but like whenever you text people, everybody texts different, but everybody kind of understands what everybody means. And that's because there's like this understanding of what you're supposed to do within like text message conversations and stuff like that. And so you lose some of your individuality because whenever you actually have like a conversation, you can make like sarcastic jokes, or you can have like a tone of voice change and things like that. Whereas you can't do that online, easily. Sometimes people will understand, but most of the time they won't. But another even kind of bigger example, I think, too, is following along with like social media trends for likes and views and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, you got to play the game. We understand that. But whenever you do that, you do kind of sacrifice some of your individuality. And it does kind of taint the work that you do, in my opinion, because then you are making a piece of content or a video or whatever you made, not for the sake of making a good video, but for the sake of playing a numbers game, which, again, kind of takes away from your individual stamp on the internet. And basically what social media kind of does is it takes a little bit of your personal individualism away from you because you're exposed to so much other stuff in the world.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about that before. Scrolling through your For You page, pretty much everyone that you see on there is just like a clone of like the last person, And so totally, because we get it, we play the game too. Yeah. We have to say things on this podcast that will sound good in a clip,
For sure.
And so people who make videos on TikTok or whatever, they have to do the right dance move or,
right.
Say the right joke so that they can get the most views or most likes or whatever. And so we know how it goes, but
not everybody does, though. That's where it gets messy.
Yeah, exactly. Because as you're new at this type of thing, and you don't kind of understand put aside the social media you versus the real you, then you could totally turn into like this clone that is just going just like going along with emotions, saying all the catchphrases that are popular at the time, wearing the right hat and right t-shirt, but that's you, now, because you weren't aware to be like, okay, this is how I have to say this on social media, but whenever it comes to real life, I don't have to be like that anymore. And that's where people get confused, and that's where it gets kind of, scary, but like you said, some people just don't realize that. Mm-hmm. So always like be aware, be aware.
Which is hard. Definitely is hard.
Yeah. So I have some other pros here. I'm just gonna go through them because we've already kind of covered them a little bit.
I have two more.
All right. So I'm gonna go through these two that are kind of ones that we've already covered, and I'm just gonna like be light on them. So one of them is new jobs. Like you said, everything is a job now. If you're good at cooking, instead of being like a head chef somewhere, like you can just
make some TikToks.
You can make some TikToks and get a following and then open your own restaurant, and then you'll be popular by like association. So then people will come to your restaurant and you'll still be doing this thing that you love, like you're cooking for people, but now you're cooking things that you want to cook instead of being a head chef at a restaurant that has a menu that you just like applied for the job and got it,
Right.
So now you're doing the thing that you enjoy, but you're doing it so that you enjoy it more because now you're cooking the things that you want to cook or whatever. Same thing like with the rollerblading example.
Yeah.
Like if you're sick of rollerblading, then all you have to do is like post some videos of you rollerblading, and then if you get some traction off of that, then next thing you know, you have your own rollerblade.
Next thing you know, you're on a rollerblade hockey team.
You're a professional rollerblader, or like maybe now that they added rollerblading into the X Games or whatever, and you were the first one ever.
You're hitting some flips or something.
Yeah, now the number one rollerblade company in the whole world that makes rollerblades has some rollerblades with your face on them.
That
like
would be sweet.
Something crazy like
right.
that, but all it took was just like
putting the skates on and making a video.
Exactly. And that's a job now, which is crazy. So that's one of the pros. And then another one is you can see everyone and everything. So what you already said is you're connected to everybody and pretty much everything that happens. And one of like the biggest things is news outlets. News outlets do basically exactly what we do. They will record their show or whatever, and then they'll post clips from their show. Their newscast, just the things that the people want to see to bring them over or whatever. And so I get pretty much all of my news through social media.
Yeah, I literally get all of mine from social media.
Yeah. So like that's crazy, but that's a new thing. People like, our parents didn't do that. Like our parents
They still don't do it, which is the crazy
thing. If they wanted the news, they would watch the news.
Mm-hmm.
But like me, the headlines are on, social media.
Yeah, you
so
refresh Twitter once.
That's all it takes.
That's all it takes.
And then there's everything that you need to know. Basically, take it with a grain of salt.
Of course.
Because, people lie. But still.
But even the news lies.
Exactly. And so that it's just crazy that. But yeah, you can see everyone and everything that's going on. You can literally find anything on social media. So another thing that's good for research too, if you want to, dude, I don't even know. Literally anything that you want to do, there's like a video on YouTube that can show you how to do it, or there's somebody on social media that's done it before, and like you can get connected with that person. So
I even think too, every paper I've written in college, I've had a YouTube video or something like that linked as a source.
Yeah.
Every single time since I went to college. So it's a real thing.
Yeah.
You can really use it for, there's information out there. You have to sift through the crap, like it's not just there in your face.
Yeah, it's not the first video that pops up
exactly.
whenever you type it in.
But you have to, you still have to do a little bit of work, but it's there. Promise. Yeah. I think a good thing to mention off the back of what you said, which is like you can basically see everybody on social media. They can also see you. And that's very important to consider too. You have to put yourself out there in a way that sets yourself up to be, successful. You don't want to like burn bridges unless you're cool with that. Like you have to be careful about how you approach social media. From a creator standpoint or from a casual person using Facebook or whatever, like what you say there it's online, it doesn't just go away. It's not how it works. So not only can you see everybody, but everybody can also see you, and you have to just be careful about that.
Yeah,
gets messy out there. My next pro here is that it enables all communities to exist. We've kind of talked about it already with like the rollerblading example and stuff like that being a job. So we don't have to talk about it for too long, but it is crazy that literally anything can be done as a job, but also let's say that you are some kid in Nebraska who loves like pickup basketball, but you live like in Cornfield, Nebraska. Not a lot of pickup basketball going on in Cornfield, Nebraska, I would assume. Never been there. I would assume though. So now you can go on YouTube or on TikTok and you can watch Bailey Graham videos about pickup basketball, and next thing you know, it's kind of like you're there in like a weird way, right? But the point is that it connects communities from across the place, across the world,
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So it connects all communities, It allows everybody to kind of get together.
Yeah, because whenever you go on social media, we all coexist in the same space, So in a way, you can kind of look at it as like the earth. Like we all coexist in the earth and we all share it together as a community in a large form. But it's the same thing with social media. Like social media is just a community that we all share. And yeah, we all have our own likes and dislikes and things. But that's another thing that's crazy too, is the social media platforms will like tweak what you see based off your community kind of. So if you are big in pickup basketball, then you'll get a Bailey Graham video that pops up, but you probably won't get like a
one of our clips pop up.
But maybe you will, because we have Bailey Graham on our podcast.
True.
If you never seen that before, so we kind of have some connections with the pickup basketball community. But we don't have a connection with the cricket community. So
true.
Yeah, maybe if you love pickup basketball, you'll see us, but you won't see a video about cricket.
Right. Maybe if you know somebody who plays cricket, you can send them to the podcast. By the way, and we can talk to them.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions for somebody who knows about cricket.
Yeah, me too. Me too. All right, so my next con here is that it's an addiction, dude. And it's bad.
Yeah, it's really
You
bad.
know, it's really bad. Um, I I really don't even know where to start because this is something that I struggle with too.
Everybody
you know?
does.
Um,
Literally everybody does.
and so the social media, it's the platform's sole and purpose to keep you on their app for as long as possible. And so every single social media app is designed to keep you on there longer and longer and longer and longer and longer because that's how they make their money. The longer you're on a social media app, the more ads they can throw in your face, and the more ads you see and the more ads that you watch, the more money they make. And that's just how it works as a business. And so if you're not aware of that, then you can get lost in social media for a long, long time because it's really easy to watch 30-second clips
All day.
forever, especially if they're so different, and there's such a variety there that you're not seeing the same thing twice. You could scroll and scroll and scroll forever.
Dude, when TikTok figures you out, you're in trouble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that is definitely something that I struggle with all the time. I mean, I get lost on social media every single day.
Every day.
And so does everyone. If you've ever opened social media before, you've definitely gotten like addicted to social media.
Sure.
There's got to be like a very, very, very small number of social media users who are not like addicted to social media, because I feel like the people who aren't addicted to social media are the ones who like figured out I'm addicted to social media, and so like now I have to do something different, which is great if you can figure that out. But it's definitely something that everyone needs to be aware of because you really can't be productive if you have like a crazy social media addiction. Say you're doing homework and then you get on TikTok for like, oh, it's just going to be a couple minutes, and then boom, you've been on there for an hour.
Yeah.
Or you're at work and then you're like tired of doing your job or whatever. So then it's like, okay, I'm just going to open TikTok for a few minutes, and then like next thing you know, it's been an hour.
Yeah.
And those are things that like can't fly. But the like an hour on TikTok could feel like just a few minutes.
Time. Yeah.
Which is crazy, but that's just the way that it goes. So definitely something that you should be aware of. And I think that is definitely the biggest negative of social media.
For sure. It's just like any addiction.
Yeah.
Pretty much no addiction is good. So.
The only thing that I say is unless you have an addiction to brushing your teeth.
That's a good one.
Or drinking water.
You can drown, though.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
You got me.
Well, bada bing. My very last negative for social media here, which I had that same thing, but I think that you crushed it. So I'm going to touch on this last one, which is that because of social media, because of how many eyeballs are on everything, and because of how headline, click culture works, where you have to get the right headline to get the clicks, blah, 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 everything becomes overblown. Small problems that happen, that come up in everyday life or whatever, become these big news headlines because the news companies need something to sell that day. The same thing with these social media companies that have, let's say you have like a community page. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but like, let's say that you're in like ESPN, for example, like they need something to post about the NFL playoffs, but they need to make it work across all of their sports. So they figure out a way to connect soccer to American football and connect it up. You know what I mean? Like, everything becomes overblown. Everything becomes a story. And the reality is, it doesn't matter that much a lot of the time. You have to be kind of very particular about how you understand what people are writing about, and you have to be able to read past the crap because they are trying to overblow and make a big deal out of something that maybe isn't a big deal, just so that way you'll click on their article or their video or whatever, so that way you'll watch it and stay in their ecosystem. It's a business at the end of the day. Making something sensational gets clicks. It's worked since the dawn of social media. So you got to watch out for overblown content.
Yeah, totally. I think that beyond it being an addiction, that is like one of the worst things about social media too, just because and not even that it's bad that it happens, because whenever you have something like social media, you have to expect things like that to happen, because no matter what, like the news headlines have to have something big every day, you know. So if nothing happens big that day, then they have to make something small big, you know. But I think like with your personal life, if you get sucked into that type of thing, then you will make small problems in your life big.
It's also just toxic because there's not that much negativity. Like you're constantly surrounded by negative, you know?
All the time in social media, you know. If you watch 10 TikToks, dude, 8 of them will be something that is somebody complaining, you know. And so like if you surround yourself with that, then that is what's going to be on your mind all the time. So then if you like drop something whenever you're walking, then now that's like a big deal, because it's like, oh my gosh, I just dropped that. What, you know?
Yeah.
Whenever it's just like, just pick it up, you know?
Keep going.
It happens.
Not that deep.
Or whatever. And that is definitely one of the things that I think happens to people who use social media like a crazy amount. Their perception of issues is just like crazy. It's all messed up. It's like gone almost.
For sure.
Just because, and it's exactly what you said. It's just like stuff is blown out of proportion all the time, and you're so used to seeing that. You're so used to seeing like a cat getting stuck in a tree is like the worst thing in the world.
Right.
And it's like, dude, look at like the other issues, you know? But it's just like that is what's thrown at you. It's just like there's nothing else to look at but these things.
Yeah. And what can happen with that too is you can either become like how we're talking, which is like hypersensitive about things that go wrong, or you can become completely desensitized, which is probably equally as bad.
Yeah.
Where whenever actual bad things happen,
it's just like
you just like whatever, or you don't. Yeah, exactly. You're just like,
dude, and you know, like I've seen that too, and which is crazy because I've never even thought about it until you just said that. But like I've experienced that, like being insensitive to things.
Me too.
Because
all the time. That's me. I'm not the over. I'm the under.
Yeah. And I haven't even thought about that, like I said, until you just said that. But I like on my TikTok, I get videos of like car wrecks, like all the time, like really bad car wrecks, or like people like, dude, like near death stuff all the time. And you know, like I see that like so often that if I see like a really bad car crash, you know, like
whatever,
like I see that and I'm like, dude, somebody totally just died in that car crash, and it's just like, all right, on to the next thing, you know. But like that's like a tragedy, you know. Man, that's so crazy. That just opened my eyes to something like completely new. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, it's interesting though, right? It's very interesting. It's interesting how that can affect people differently.
Yeah,
because you can either become like hyper aware, or just like completely like desensitized, which is an interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting, and all off the back of one problem, which is just overblowing titles. Who knew? That's all I've got for pros and cons.
Yeah, that's all I've got for pros and cons too.
I basically just have closing thoughts. You have the same kind of thing.
Yep.
You can take it away. I have 3, but really 2.
Yeah, I'll just go through my list and I'll go through your list, because mine basically just like hit on the same thing that we've already like done, but the ones that I think are the most important. So I'll just go through mine, and then you can go through yours, and then you know, we can converse as we go through. So the first one that I have is do not use social media excessively, and I want to like take that with a grain of salt myself, you know, and I feel like you probably should too, because at the end of the day, like social media is a job as of today, you know. So excessive social media use is so different compared, like depending on who you are, you know. Like excessive social media use for us is like if I spend hours, you know, making clips for Instagram or TikTok or whatever, then like that's technically still social media use, but it's not like me watching TikTok for 3 hours, you know, or it's so hard to say.
Yeah,
or like if I watch YouTube for 2 hours because I'm researching like this project that I'm doing, it's not like those were a negative 2 hours. So don't use social media negatively excessively.
Very good
is what I should say.
Yes.
The next one is don't get too caught up in what others are doing, because, like we've said already, everything that everyone is doing, you have access to, and like you can see that. But just don't get caught up in their world, because like you still have your world. So don't become like a clone of these people. If someone that you love is doing something, then don't think that that means you have to do it too, because you're your own person and you can do whatever you want. But also don't see what somebody else is doing and then try to compare it to them, because they have issues just like you have issues. People post their perfect moments on social media, and you have to always keep that in mind. If somebody posts a picture on Instagram, then they posted it because they thought that it was worthy of going out into the world, So whenever you see something like a picture of somebody on Instagram and you're like, oh my goodness, they look so good, why don't I look like that? And it's like, if you went to their house as soon as they woke up and they had bedhead and stinky breath, you probably wouldn't think that they look
Right.
perfect,
Yeah.
Like, people get picture perfect to post on like social media. So keep that in mind. The next one, we've already talked about this. Just be nice. We all share social media, and it's going to stay that way forever and ever and ever until the next big crazy thing happens. But until then, we just have to be nice to each other because we share the space. So we just got to keep sharing, because sharing is caring. Next, be aware and do your research. We talk about that all the time. So
Every podcast.
yeah. And then also use social media for good. At the end of the day, social media is a good thing. The world wouldn't be where we are right now without it. It's one of the most innovative things in the whole world. So just use it for good, It was intended for good, and so let's just keep using it as it was intended, Keep exploring, keep trying new things, keep posting, keep watching, because that's obviously what you're there for. But just whenever it starts to negatively affect you, you have to be self-aware and you have to realize that something needs to change. Because then, if you don't realize that and you're not self-aware, then you're just as bad off as like a cocaine addict or
Yeah.
So
True.
You just have to keep those things in mind.
For sure. I'll piggyback literally directly off of that with the same thing, which is being self-aware and understanding the effects of the content that you're consuming, which is, for me, I've talked about it a lot on the podcast, a lot of how productive I am at the time is based off of what I'm watching content-wise. I always say, I've said this a couple times on the podcast, where you can tell a lot about somebody by their For You page.
Mm-hmm.
I will stand by that till the day I die. It's very true. Because the For You page sends videos your way based off of what you look at the most often, which is whatever that is for you. If your For You page is full of, videos that you would consider good videos, good for you as a person outside of social media, then you're probably in a pretty good place. But if your, For You page is sending you videos about, something that is not helping you, progress in your daily life or whatever, then you might be like in a rut or whatever, which happens, but you just have to be aware of that, like you said. I think that's important to just consider, is the fact that the content that you are consuming does have an effect on your daily life. Even if you think it's, even if you think it doesn't, it does. And maybe it's a small effect, but it definitely has an effect.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way that TV has done the same thing for generations,
Yeah.
Social media is the same way. And then the kind of last point that I want to make here is that social media can be a tool if you make it a tool. The natural state of social media is sending videos into your face to sometimes test the water and see if you'll like them, or also sometimes just make you laugh and stay on the app or whatever. We've talked about this a little bit already. Algorithmic, systems will just send videos your way or whatever like that. But there's different ways that you can do it on different platforms. Like on TikTok, for example, you can clear your cache, which basically gets rid of all the information that TikTok has about you and resets your For You page basically. So then you can tailor your For You page to be more whatever you want. You know what I mean? You have to play the game a little bit, but the point is that social media in its like natural state, whenever you open Instagram, whenever you open TikTok, whenever you open YouTube, is not a tool. It is it's a set of numbers that's shooting videos at you. But if you take the time and make it into a tool, then you kind of become unbeatable. And that, I think, is really important to consider as well.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
It's good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, Caddy Corner episode 45. Social media, an honest reflection.
Yeah.
Not bad.
And listening to a podcast for 30 minutes is not bad.
No.
So keep doing that.
Keep doing that.
If you're listening, then
shout out to you.
Yeah, you're killing it.
Especially this far in the podcast.
And this is a tool.
This is a tool.
It's research.
It is. It is.
If you think about it like that.
For sure.
Because I do every single time.
Yeah.
You know?
We make good stuff. What can we say? You can check through our other 44 episodes of our great Caddy Corner main show. And
43.
43? Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. That's for another time, too. We'll talk about that at a later date. But I was thinking about that the other day. That's really funny. But thanks so much for listening to Caddy Corner episode 45. An honest reflection on social media. I hope that's really going to be the title because I've said it 3 times in the show, so I guess it is going to be the title.
Yeah, it kind of has to now.
Kind of has to now.
Yeah, hopefully you don't think about something better than that.
Yeah, I know, right? We're going to have to, dub it. Spaghetti Western it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much for watching, though. If you're this deep into the episode, we appreciate you very much, and we would also really appreciate it if you rated us 5 stars and left us a review. It means a ton, and it really helps. The audio has been kind of popping off a little bit in the past couple days. I don't know if you've noticed that or not.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to you guys, audio listeners. YouTube guys, still doing what YouTube guys do, which is pretty sweet. Thanks for that.
And we read all of our reviews online.
We do.
So
we might do it a little late. Apologies for that. But we've been kind of busy since the top of the new year.
That's true.
We do have a pretty intensive behind-the-scenes project that we haven't talked about in a very long time on the podcast. So we don't just ignore the reviews. We do read them online. This might take a little while later, so give us a second, but we'll get to it. But leave a review. We really appreciate it. If you're on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the show around to anybody who you think needs a show like this to listen to. This is the Caddy Corner main show, which is more of this vibe, more informative. Caleb and I just kind of pick a topic that we can talk about and spread some knowledge about and do it for about a half hour every week, every Friday at 8 a.m. So check that out. And we also do Caddy Corner After Hours every single Wednesday, which is a more laid-back, kickback show. And if it's audio only, so if you want to check that out, if you're on the podcast platforms right now, just literally scroll down one podcast and check that out. Because it's going to be pretty fun. Caleb has this thing that we're going to do on Caddy Corner After Hours that I haven't seen yet. So hopefully it's fun. And hopefully it was a good episode of Caddy Corner After Hours. With that being said, I'm Austin. He's Caleb. We're back every single week making a podcast because that's what we like to do. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.